Hey guys, this is Formulka with the patch notes for version 8.8 of World of Tanks. Everything in these notes can change, is subject to change and will most likely change, just to warn you. And let's take a look at the contents. The new content is of course the Soviet medium tank line, the new one. A43, A44, Object 416 and Object 140. I will cover all of these in game, just following this tiny bit of information. There are new German tanks, Wargaming 2, which is a tier 4 heavy tank, and VK30.02M, which is a tier 6 Panther. Yeah, this is just a Panther, a tier lower. Changes to the German tanks. VK30.01H has been moved in tier and from medium to heavy, and VK36.01H has been changed just from medium to heavy. All of their stats have been slightly changed or heavily changed around, and I will show you this in game as well, just as these new tanks. New Chinese premium tanks added to the gift shop. So I can't show you them, sadly guys, because the server has no gift shop and there's no way for me to purchase them. It is the T33-3 tier 8 medium tank and 112 tier 8 heavy tank. So Chinese guys are getting both medium and heavy tank in this patch, most likely. They used to have one medium, but the T59 is out of the game and is just a prize for the contests. But I can show you these tanks in pictures at least, because in one of the earlier posts about version 8.8 there were pictures for these tanks in game. So the first one, the T34-3, is this one. Looks pretty standard, nice green paint job. And the next one, 112, is this one, which looks much more threatening. And back to the patch notes. There is a new map, Tundra, which is a Soviet rocky Slovan territory during early autumn. I will show you this map in game. Maps reworked and I guess added to the rotation are Serene Coast, Komarin and Swamp. All of these were hated by some people, all of these were removed from game. I've played some of them only a few times, because these are for a long time. I think Swamp and Komarin are out of the game for like almost 10 patches, maybe even more. And encounter mode has been added to Mountain Pass map. Now for the minor fixes and changes, and the minor should be used lightly for this, because there is a lot of nice stuff in this list. The T26E4 super pershing is back in game and has been rebalanced, front armor and some other parameters. This is as cryptic as it gets. I'm not sure what this means. I have all the changed stats prepared for you guys, but like nothing. I'm pretty sure there's something underneath that I don't see, and it was changed as well, because the changes I have found are not worth removing the tank from the game for 2 whole patches and then returning it in back basically unchanged. Added the possibility to sell it back for gold. The tank is added to the in-game store. By the way, this doesn't work, I don't think, at least on the test server. For Chinese tanks, the penetration of the APCR shell on the P0471 122mm gun has been changed from 300 to 250mm. This is also wrong, because I haven't found this gun. Maybe, I guess there is, but it doesn't have these changes. It is the 100mm guns that have these changes. So basically the gold ammo has slower penetration. This was ridiculous before, at least on the tanks where you can find it. I think even tier 7 tanks, this is overkill. So this is a welcome change. Change the engines and characteristics of German vehicles, and there is a list of basically every heavy and tank destroyer in the German top line, so I will cover them in game closely, and I will do a tiny little slice where I will show you all of these things one by one with all the changes stats in the video. Increase the damage and decrease the rate of fire for the following Soviet 100mm guns. the LB1, D10T, D10C, and LB1C. So they shoot slightly slower but do more damage, so this should cancel each other out. I guess there may be some decrease or increase, but it shouldn't be huge. Significantly expanded the functionality of missions. An interface with description and current mission status has been added to the client. This is a great change, fantastic change. Right now you have missions, but they are hidden and you only know when you have finished the mission. But now you have a nice little box where you see all your missions, when they expire, what is your progress, so how many tanks you have killed, and if you are closer to the 300 grand price. So this is fantastic change. Added protection against the accidental selling of tanks. I will show you this in game as well. This is a nice protection because selling your premium for like 1.5 million of credits this will just break you into tears. Significantly improve the quality of XAA. I will check this in game. Completely reworked the statistics and achievements page. Changed players' global rating calculation. This is a beautiful new page for achievements and statistics. I will show you this in game. I have an AMD card, so I don't have the problems, but some people are reporting that on NVIDIA cards the game can crash if you check out the statistics, so be aware of that, especially as there is a line into the tester right now, or queue where you have to wait. So yeah, better not click on your statistics. You can check them out on your normal World of Tanks client. Added the voiceovers for each nation's crew. A crew of a particular nation speaks in their own language. This can be switched on in the settings. I will show you where to switch this, and I will play some like a German or a Russian tank to show you this new nice thing added into game. I was wondering for a long time why this isn't even a thing, because the crew yells just a few things, so making a voiceover for all the nations is just a matter of, I don't know, days, week. So this is great, and it is as great. This is really great news, as I guess even for the wargaming, because they have added this twice into the list, if I'm not blind. Just a different wording. The next one, when your team is defeated but you get one of the battle hero, epic or platoon achievements, you will now receive times 1.5 credits and experience. So it's just as for the victorious team. This is great. If you are doing really well in a battle and you are basically screwed by your stupid team, it happens to everyone, you will get as much credits and experience as the victorious team. But keep in mind, this doesn't still count as a daily double, because it is not your victory. So you will have to really win to get the daily double. Change the rules for determining who caused the ramming. It will now default to the player whose tank has been highest speed at the moment of the ramming encounter. I guess this should be a nerf to the lights, like trying to ram heavies. I'm not sure if it's just before the ramming. It should be like, it should boost the lights, but if it's at the moment, the light will stop and the heavy shouldn't stop. If they are running face to face, the heavy will not stop by the low mass of the light. So I'm not sure how this should work, but it should prevent like a lights getting the ramming kills on heavies, I guess. Implemented new option to switch on the inversion of reverse moving. Now when reversing and pressing the button to turn in a certain direction, your tank will move in this direction and not the opposite as for disabled inversion. This basically means if you are in a tank destroyer, this is a great thing, because you don't, well, it's not, if it's not a turret, it's tank destroyer. You don't have the turret, so you have to move all your body, and if you are zoomed in, it's kind of awkward, because you are going front to peek out and shoot, and then reversing, and you have to switch where you are basically turning. So this can be awkward for some people, and this is a nice thing, and they have added it as a choice, so this is fantastic. When switching off the auto aiming option, it is no longer necessary to move the aiming indicator of the locked tank. This is great, especially for me. I still have the auto aiming bound to my right click for some reason, and from time to time in the heat of battle I will misclick right, and then I have to move the reticle of the tank and right click again. This is so awkward and stupid, so this is a welcome change. Added automatic shooting when pressing and holding the fire button. I'm not sure about this. It may, like, the newer players may take a bad habit out of it, because the lower tier tanks shoot very fast, and I'm not really sure, but sometimes it can be valuable if you have a cannon or something like that that doesn't auto shoot automatically, or it didn't before. This should help you a tiny bit. So these were the patch notes. I think these are mostly great, except for some. And now let's take a look at the game. So let's take a look at the UI changes. First one will be the selling mechanic, or the prevention of set. And I will also show you that there is no option to sell this tank for gold. There is none. But the prevention is basically this: you have to type in the amount of credits you are getting, so it's different most of the time. So you don't sell your precious super Pershing or Löwe for 1 million or 2 of credits and then cry yourself to sleep as you have lost like 30 or 50 euros in cash. So this was the first UI upgrade. The next one is the missions. As you can see, I have 3 missions right now. None of them has any progress, but it is showing you that it's 0 out of 5 when this mission will expire. And the conditions, the stacks, and the award. This is great, and these are different conditions, like number of missions mission completions. So there is a mission for missions. And this one includes some tanks, so everything is laid out in front of you. You can see the award, and you can even check out the missions that are not available yet but are waiting just around the corner. So this is fantastic new UI element, and I love it. And next, the service record. Let's hope it doesn't crash. Should be fine. Yeah, it's nice. I'm not sure the number isn't nice, but I mean the amount, but the number is very nice, 888. So these new service records pages have 4 tabs. All of them look different. All of them look beautiful. Well, not the results you can see for me, but well, they look beautiful. Like check out these nice graphs. This is gorgeous, gorgeous. And the crew voices. I think I've switched it on already, but I can, yeah, you can either choose national or standard. And if you choose national, this is the old one. And a few Russian ones, and the Chinese ones, everything is there. This is great. And this should be about it, about the new UI elements. And a bonus, guys, check out this flag, Japan. So we can look forward to Japan tanks. This is like a spoiler, nothing more, because in the Tech 3 there are no Japan tanks. So I can't show you any, but I can show you that you can look forward to Japan tanks. I'm not sure what they will be. Maybe another repaint of... well, no. I think some of the Chinese tanks are from Japan originally, so you will most likely be able to find some of the Chinese tank in the Japanese line, but it should be interesting, because if they have put the nation in the game, they should have at least one line of the tanks up to tier 10. And I'm not sure how they will manage to do that with the Japanese tank technology being kind of backwards. So, as we are looking at the Super Pershing, let's talk about it, shall we? So the changes, the grand changes, the reasons why this tank was out of the game for so long, well, kinda long. Right now it has 50 more hit points. Yes, it has 1mm less front hull armor. Yeah, that's important. It is slightly faster, but it's not just 2 kilometers per hour. It's 2.2 kilometers per hour. They had to add the 0.2, but the engine power is the same, so I'm not sure how this will work out. But this should help you down the hill, basically. And one other thing, I think the most important of all of them, is the improved view range from 380 to 390. That's it. I haven't found anything. There's nothing changed, even on the model. There is the spaced armor on the turret. There are the two plates added to the hull, and that's it. By the way, if you don't know, guys, the super Pershing in World War II was only a prototype, and all of these bits extra that look so funny were added by the crew in the field to make it more resilient. Yeah, but there are thousands of these guys in the world of tanks. Anyway, this was really one-off. Well, there were other super Pershings, but this looking only one, at least I think. Now to the Russians. To the Russian new medium tanks, of course. Oh no, slightly different flag. And the first one is A43, which I think right off the bat is the worst one. Not only because it's the lowest tier, but all in all, this is, for me at least, a bad tank. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It is competing with the T-34-85, which is a great tank. It is a great 85mm gun, which you can find on the Tier 5 tank destroyer, the Su-85. But this time it's in a turret. It has slightly lower accuracy, but it is a great gun for a Tier 6 tank. Now let's take a look at the A43. And so this is a ZIS for S54 and F34. Where have I seen these guns? On the Tier 5 T-34. These are the same guns. It also has this piss poor one down below, but this is no upgrade. That you don't have the basic one is slightly better. No, this is bad. This is a bad selection of guns. Seriously, what the hell? Wargaming. And now the stats. It has tiny bit higher speed, better traverse, better hull armor, especially, well, up front. Worse turret armor, but it's all around the same. And slightly faster traverse. And that's it about this tank. I think from the side it should be easier to penetrate, even though this is more target, it doesn't look like it's sloped as much. And the turret also looks like slightly weaker. And of course this this was stolen from a captured British tank destroyer and put on the tank just to make it even weaker. Yeah, this is an extremely vulnerable weak spot, and I simply don't like this tank. I don't. But now we are getting to the meat of the update, the really funny tanks. And the first one is A44. Just look at this. It almost looks like a ship or something. It has the same configuration as ELCMX, for example, and many tank destroyers, especially in the German line. And yeah, it's really weird looking, but the turret should rotate all around, unlike the ELCMX and, for example, the British top tier tank destroyer. So what's good about this tank? Well, the frontal armor, the one around here, is really good. 150 at tier 7 is pretty decent, and check out the slope. It's insane slope. I'm not sure about this bit, but it looks thick as well. The lower glacis does not look as good. The sloping isn't as good, but the tank itself is extremely low. If you compare it to its contender, the T-43, you can see it's somewhat lower. It's much lower. If it didn't have this, once again, stupid Commander's Cupola, it would be much lower. But this is still should be a weak spot from the front, because well, you should shoot at this, but if you can't aim at that and he's not hull down, which is kinda impossible because the depression of the gun is really depressing, shoot at this. This should be weak spot. Maybe even this machine gun port, or the two. From the side, the armor is basically flat. It looks really similar to the A43. Well, it should. It's like a continuation of that line. And the turret armor is decent all around. For tier 7, I would say even less than decent. And we have this stupid Commander Cupola up top. So this was A44. It has a decent speed limit. This looks really nice. I'm not sure about the engine power. The power to weight ratio is 15.43. It should be reasonably quick. It isn't a slow tank by no stretch of the imagination. But let's compare the guns to the T43, that is. The T43 has all of these nice guns, the penetration of up to 144, which is nothing great. The A44, on the other hand, has the 107mm ZIS-6 gun, which I think has been ripped off the SU-85 in one of the, well, not really recent patches. So this gun is great. 167mm of penetration and 300 damage and a decent rate of fire. Well, the accuracy is and the aiming time are letting this gun down, but you will most likely use this as a tank destroyer anyway. So this should be fine. This should be really fine. And you have the turret, unlike most of the tank destroyers. So in this respect, I think this tank wins. This is a much stronger gun. Okay, so now let's take a look at the object 416. And now look at it with its basic turret. It looks like, I don't know, a birthday cake or a tank that used to have its turret this way, but someone went around, some giant stepped on it and then forcefully turned the turret to the other side. With the upgraded one it looks better, and it is a good turret. As you can see, it's very much like the T62A and others, so it is a bouncing castle. Even though the armor isn't especially great, well, try and find a flat surface on that thing. Also, it's really low, I think almost as low as ELC AMX. Not as small, it's much wider, especially much wider, but you are a really small target. And the lower glacis is this time nicely sloped and small, as is the upper glacis. So the lower hull armor at this sloping is still semi-decent. For a tier 8 medium, yeah, it should be. It should be semi-decent. And there is no stupid Commander's Cupola to top it off. Now let's take a look at the T44, which is the contender with this tank, because they want to be both your favorite. So the hull armor is slightly better, but the sloping is better on the object. So this is kind of a tie, and there's like almost no sides to this tank. You'll most likely hit the tracks anyway, or the bounce turret. Now the turret armor, on paper this turret should be better, but the sloping is not nearly as good as this one. So I would give the victory even in the turret armor to this one, to the object. And in the rest they are basically the same. For some reason the lower tank has higher signal range, but that's about it. And now for the last one, and I'm kind of curious about why they even added this tank into the game. If you look at the stats and even the shape of the tank, it's basically the same as T-62A. It has this machine gun, of course, but the configuration is basically the same. The armor is slightly better, but like only on the sides, not at the front. It looks like it has a nicer slope, and it's lighter, so it has a nicer power to weight ratio, and it's slightly faster, and has for some reason slightly lower traverse speed. But the gun and everything else is the same. Well, there is one downside as well. The T-62A has the longest signal range of anything in the game, and this does not retain this. So this is, if you are using it as a scout, or as a scouting medium, and why not with this kind of speed and traverse, the T-62A has an advantage. So these were the new Russian medium tanks. I will show you each of them in a separate video in game. And now we shall take a look at the changes and the new tanks in the German lines. So the first one is der Volkswagen 2, or rather the W2, a tier 4 heavy German tank, and it is bad. Just like the only other tier 4 heavy tank in the game, the B1. It's not good. But let's be fair, let's be frank. Basically none of the tier 4 tanks is good. And all you can say is good. So this is no exception. It is a brick, just like all the old German tanks. 50 armor all around. For a heavy, that's for a laugh. And it's not sloped, of course. As I said, it's a brick. Only this part is sloped, but yeah. And it has the commander's cupola to top it off, to make this tank even worse. They have stolen a cupola from a British tank destroyer just to slap it on to make it even worse. So yeah, who even likes like T4 heavies? And the gun is basically the same you get on B1. It has slightly higher damage, but it's slightly slower. I think it's even less accurate, and the aiming time is worse. So that's DW2 in a nutshell. It isn't a good tank, and the next one in line you will get isn't any better. They have dropped VK30.01H down from tier 6 to tier 5, and then they decided they have to ruin the tank to make it work as a heavy. So what have they done to this? It used to be a great medium tier 6 tank. Well, they improved the whole armor. This used to be 30 millimeters only. This is 50. The backside and the sides. And that's it about the hull. The turret armor is worse, if you can believe it. It used to be 120 in the front. Not anymore, only 80. And yeah, the rest is the same. And once again, no sloping. Well, tiny bit of sloping on the turret, but that will not save anyone. I mean, still, the front of the turret is still the toughest part of the tank, but let's go down the stats, shall we? This hurts. This really hurts. So, they dropped the engine power. Of course they did. They dropped the speed limit from 55 to 35, so we have lost 20 kilometers per hour right off the bat. And now the traverse speed. This number used to be 38. 38! This is half of that. So, from a nimble tier 6 medium tank, they have created a slow lumbering beast of a tier 5 heavy fail tank. And it even has a less HP, I think. Of course it has, it is a lower tier, but this is a heavy, this should reach up almost to the next tier. So, what's good about this tank? And for your surprise, there are a few things good. This is a huge gun selection. Just look at the research tree. I haven't seen that many guns in any other tank. And the last two guns are really good. Like the top gun is great. For a tier 5, you can deal with KV1s, which you will be up against, not in the armor. They will penetrate you as well, but you can fight back at least, and you can destroy them. So I think this tank is kinda made for sniping, but it's not very small. I don't think it can hide really well. But, well, that's its thing. You can snipe with it. It has a decent gun for its tier, so that's a good thing. Almost every tank has a good part. And now up to VK 36.01H, which only got switched from medium to heavy, and the gun selection, almost everything is the same. The only thing they did was lower the engine power and increase the speed limit. For some reason, with this weaker engine it is faster. I guess down the hill. And yeah, that's about it. It's now heavy, but it's still a good tank. It was basically a heavy before, but it wasn't called like one. So yeah, and it still has kind of a commander's cupola, but it's not as bad as the one on DW2. So yeah, still a weak spot. This one is even better, but the rest is rubbish. Still great armor, great selection of guns, great tank. So these were the changes to the German line. They basically created a lower tier heavy line. From the Panzer 3A, you can go to the first two heavies. This is only the second heavy tier 4 in the game. And there are not that many tier 5 heavies either. I think like with this 3 or 4 maybe at most. But this is weird. If you look at the tree, if you want to go to the heavy line, you can go through the mediums up here and then continue to the heavy line, just like you can through this heavy line. But to get to this medium line down here, you have to go through this heavy line. I'm not sure why. This doesn't kind of make any sense. I'm not sure why they did that. These should be like switched over. And this should be the only way to the heavy line, because it doesn't make any sense. You can just bypass both of these brutally bad tanks and go straight to the good ones. So at least that's that, but I'm pretty sure this should be switched around. And now to the other new tank after the Volkswagen Zwei. The new medium tier 6 tank, the VK 30.02M, which basically is a tier 6 Panther. You don't believe me? Take a look. Panther, VK, Panther, VK, Panther, VK. Yeah, they look really similarly. They are basically the same tank. This looks like a prototype of the Panther, but I don't think it was. So finally some sloping after those bricks. Nice sloping on the armor. The armor isn't very great, but it's a medium, and the tread armor is decent for tier 6. And the gun selection even is greater gun selection. The one gun you can get is a really good gun for tier 6 medium. 150 penetration, and the damage is kinda low, but this is a good gun. Good accuracy, decent aiming time. Good gun on a good tank, good fast tank with a decent amount of hit points. Probably the best news in the German line, I'm sure. It looks like a kind of like a poor brother of the Panther. If you look at it, it looks like it has all the flair, better exhausts, better looking exhausts, all the tools, and even a machine gun. Well, maybe this is a good thing. This is one less weak spot if these aren't. So this is the VK30.02. And now let's take a look at the German engine changes. So wargaming decided that they want to fix, quote unquote, the German engines on some of their tanks. I'm not sure how widespread this is. I've just checked the one mentioned in the patch notes, and I checked the E50M, and this isn't changed. It retains its 1200 engine power, but all the others, E75 used to have this engine as well, but not anymore. Only 900, and that's the top engine. So what they basically have done is they've cut all the engines before the top one and give you slightly better second to last one. If this makes any sense. Basically you have only one upgrade to get to the top engine, and the engine is not as good. But to counterweight this, you still have the same speed limits, by the way, it just takes longer to get there. You don't accelerate as fast. To counteract this, they have given the Germans a somewhat huge boost in their suspensions. So E75, almost 100 tons worth of metal, can turn at 30 degrees per second right now, which to me seems insane. This is insane. This used to be 21, so this is like 50% faster for the third heaviest tank in the game. That's right. So there is the counterweight to the lower engine power, and I think this is worth much more than the engine power itself. So I think in the end this is a buff, and on top of that, and this is, I think, maybe even bigger, you save so much experience, it's not even funny. Once again, I've taken an E75 because this is a great example, but this tank used to need 93,900 experience to get to the top engine, which is better than this one. But now you can spend only 26,500 and you are at the top. So you are saving almost 70,000 hit points experience, and that's more than third of the experience you need for E100. So this is, I think, all in all, this is a huge boost to all the affected tanks, because, well, the others don't save as much, but they still, like E50 saves 50,000 experience, Jagdpanther saves 14,000, and this list goes on, and I will show you all of them. But this is, I think, a boost, a serious boost, and all of these tanks have lost all their middle engines. There is only one upgrade on all of the affected tanks, no more. So this, I think, is great news in the end for the Germans, because the turret speed is so much better. The one tank which is affected, it's kind of weird, is the VK21.01, which is a light tank, like a light tier 6 tank, and the traverse speed, believe it or not, was lowered from 48 to 46, and it has the same engine power, so this is the only change, I think. But the other ones all benefit from this heavily, at least especially the heavies. So right now I will show you all the tanks, and in annotations I will pop the differences and all the calculations, so you can see how much this affects the tank you are looking for. And I will be back right after that. So these were the changes to the German tank line. Sadly, I am unable to find a game where I could showcase the maps. There's not that many games on the test server, and there are of course full of Russians. I have nothing against Russians, but they kinda don't want to talk. They are writing in Azbuka and I don't understand them, so I will try and get some footage for you guys in the next video. And I will also play a few games in the new tanks and in the changed ones, so you can look forward to that. If you liked this video, please like it, and if you want to see more, please subscribe and leave a comment down below. I'm pretty sure I've got something wrong, so everyone knows. Thanks for watching guys, and bye bye.